Engaging in the deeds of a bodhisattva using the translation by To Sijit, who's a translator within the FPMT. And over the next, so today, tomorrow, and then also in November and again in January, there are 3-day sessions, and we'll go through the text in a very light overview way, because the text is very rich. We can only kind of dip in and taste. And we covered the first chapter yesterday, which is about developing admiration and faith in the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas because they have this mind of bodhicitta. But in order to help you with your studies, because I have no merit whatsoever, then we need to do some merit-making activity before we start. So, with the prayer book. So we'll do the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, the Heart Sutra, and then mandala offering, and then refuge and bodhicitta. And the rough structure of the day is first session from 10 to 11:15. It's on the wall at the back. Then a half-hour tea break, because we're British, we need that. Then second session, 11:45 to 1 o'clock. Then a 1.5-hour lunch session. Then come back here for group discussion. And then another tea break. And then the final session is at 4:15 to 5:30-ish, round about then. So if somebody's following online or through live stream, then there will be no live streaming from 1 o'clock till 4:15, because group discussion won't work at your end. Okay. So praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior, having great compassion, the Founder, having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms' atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The Heart Sutra. Thus did I hear one time the Bhagwan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's Mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagwan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharidatiputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates, also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagwan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, Well said, son of a lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharidatiputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. And then the long mandala offering on page 14. Shingambo Waju Om Benza Bumi Ahom Wanshin Seji Saji Om Benza Reke Ahom Chi Chari Koyugi Kowe Uzu Vigya Bodhira Shalu Pabo Lo Zambolin Nu Balan Chu Jan Daminyan Le Dan Le Pa Ngaya Dan Ngaya Shin Yen Den Dan Lang Shu Dro Daminyan Dan Daminyan Ge Da Rinpo Je Rie Wo Pa Sangye Shin De Je Ye Ba Mame Pa Yi Lo To Kolo Rinpo Je Nobo Rinpo Je Sumo Rinpo Je Lombo Rinpo Je Lambo Rinpo Je Dajo Rinpo Je Maban Rinpo Je Dejen Bo Yi Bomba Ge Ma Tianwa Ma Lo Ma Gara Ma Medo Ma Diba Ma Nasa Ma Dija Ma Ni Ma Da Wa Rinpo Je Do Jole Nambara Gyawe Gansen Muzo La Dami Pa Jo Panzo Zopa Ma Tsa Wa Me Pa Sanjin Idu Oma Dida Dunchen Zawa Dangyo Pa Jeba Balan Lama Damba Nandan Gebra Duyan Lama Lozan Duwan Doje Chan Jambo Lazo Godan Jeba Nana Shingambo Waju Doje Dowe Nundu Jeso So Shene Kanda So Droa Magya Nang Dadan Nyambe Senjen Tanje La Duze Wa Jembo Goni Jingi La Duzo Sa yi pegi joji me do dra ri ra len she ni de gyamba di sangye jin de me de wa yi dro ga na na jin la je ba jo yi da ngo lo na na ma da la ga ni ya da ya mi. And then take refuge on page 20. Sangye chodan sogye chana la chancho badu dani kasuji dagi chanengi pesanangi dola panche sangye dopa sho sangye chodan sogye chana la chancho badu dani kasuji dagi chanengi pesanangi dola panche sangye dopa sho sangye chodan sogye chana Janjo Bado Dani Kasuji Dagi Choshe Gipe Sonangi Dola Penchi Sangye Dopa Jo. Thank you. So did everyone pick up today's meditations and discussion points from up here at the back? Saturday the 8th.
You might have them already, Alison. Because I picked up a pile.
And media you have as well. Yeah. Okay, so just to briefly recap yesterday, there we have one page of Sanskrit text, and that's just me being pedantic and pointing out that it was first composed in Sanskrit, then translated into Tibetan. There are a number of Sanskrit texts surviving. They have variations in them, so it's not really correct to say the Sanskrit text. Similarly, when we move to Tibet, we have the translation, the text that's been translated by Tosiji, and that's found in the Tenjo, in the collection of commentaries. And that is the one used by all the schools of Tibetan Buddhism. And on that, there's one large commentary by an Indian master called Prajnakarmati, and then there's another sub-commentary to his work, and then 7 or 8 other commentaries on this text that have been translated from Indian language into Tibetan. When they found the Tibetan manuscripts in Dunhuang, in Western China, they found another translation of this text, which is notably different, particularly in the way it's organized. And so, again, we can't talk about the Tibetan text. There are at least 2 variants that have survived. And in particular, the one it's in the British Library, in the India Office Library collection, and it's organized in 9 chapters rather than 10. So the reason it's in 9 is that our chapter 2 and our chapter 3 are one in that text. They're merged together. So the chapter putting in chapters has come later, clearly. So then within the Tibetan tradition, this is highly regarded text, and there are commentaries in all the main schools. But since this is, we follow Geluk, then we're using a commentary by a master called Gyaltsab-je, who's one of the 2 main disciples of Tsongkhapa. When you talk about Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, one of them is Gyaltsab-je, and he was the older, more senior of the monks of the 2. So if you look in the small temple above the Buddha image, there's Tsongkhapa above the Buddha, and on Tsongkhapa's right is Gyaltsab-je, on Tsongkhapa's left is Kedrup-je. And Kedrup, as you can tell because his eyes are very wide open, he was renowned for his debating prowess. But Gyaltsab Dharma Rinchen, there's a group of texts of his called the Datik Shi, so literally the 4 commentaries of Dharma Rinchen. And he wrote 4 commentaries that are highly prized within our tradition. So one of them is this, the commentary on Shantideva's text. And what I've done is given you our first 3 chapters with the headings of his text put in there. And then all of you, apart from media, will have received a lot of stuff by email yesterday, which has the whole of Gyaltsab's commentary translated by Ben Fedor. When you think that it comes to something like 600 or 700 pages in English, that's huge work that Fedor's done for people, so really kind. So that's the kind of standard one for the Geluk looking at this text. But then also one of the other commentaries that Gyaltsab-je did was on the Uttara Tantra, so what we call Final Continuum, or the Buddha Nature text. And then there are 2 others, so one of which is on the Ornament of Clear Realization, the 4th chapter, we studied that one. And then one other which I think is on the Pramana, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But they're big texts, and they're not an easy read, but it's worth dipping in. So if you find something in this text that kind of sparks you a bit, then check in his commentary to see what the richness is. In 9 days, which effectively what this course is, we cannot possibly look at the text through Gyaltsab Je's vision, but it's an amazing text. It really has so much in it. It's very beautiful. So please use that. But just, I think we should focus on the text itself. That also fits with our way of doing things. In European culture, we moved away from approaching religious text through commentary. It started when there was the Reformation and the split, and people said we can actually read the Bible ourselves in our own language, and you know the story of the translation of the Bible into English, where in the early days, in the first translations, it was punishable by death to have your Bible in English. You could have it in Latin, even if you couldn't read it, you could have it in Latin, but if you had it in English and you could understand it, then the death sentence. And then gradually we got to a stage where people tend to approach the Bible, which is the Christian book, particularly in the Protestant schools, directly. In Catholicism, you still have a commentarial tradition that runs alongside it, and often you still come to the Bible through commentary, through Bible class, on commentary, through St. Augustine's teachings and things like that. But generally, and also in our academic world, we tend to look at the text itself and then look at the commentaries coming out like that. Helpfully or unhelpfully, none of the Indian commentaries have been translated. So we have a couple of Tibetan commentaries that are translated. There are 2 books by His Holiness Dalai Lama commenting on this text. And then there's another book by someone called Geshe Yeshe Topten, which is taken from his teachings in Italy sometime in the 1990s, which is a very nicely done book. Okay, so of the 10 chapters, one way of cutting the pudding is to say the first 3 chapters are about the benefits of bodhicitta and developing that wish to take up the mind of bodhicitta, take up the mind of enlightenment, or however we want to phrase this, bodhicitta in English. Then the next 3 are about maintaining it, preserving it, keeping it strong. And then the next 3 are about expanding it, developing it. And then there's the dedications. And that His Holiness Dalai Lama says he finds useful. So if he thinks it's all right, I think it's all right. And he's taken that from the Nyingma master Palto Rinpoche, who lived in the 19th century or 18th century. My dates are hopeless with their masters. Who was a very famous practitioner, scholar, and most famous because he would abandon his students regularly, and then they'd have to go and find him. Which I think is quite a good training to, tell us to practice what we learn. Don't always think that, the opportunity to learn Dharma is going to be there forever. So then we looked a bit at this first chapter, which is about developing a sense of what's beneficial, what's wonderful about bodhicitta, its value. And we also looked at the fact that this text kind of assumes that you've done, the first 2 scopes, that you're kind of there. You've decided you've had enough of samsara and you want to move on. And you're now developing that mind of bodhicitta focused on others. And in particular, we looked at the verse 4, first 4 in the first chapter, which goes, "The leisures and endowments are very hard to find. Since they accomplish the purpose of beings, if I do not accomplish benefit upon this, how will I acquire this in the future?" And then some of the verses afterwards, but pointing out that we are extraordinarily fortunate right here, right now, to have access to this text. We live in a culture where we can practice Buddhism if we want to. We're not persecuted for it. This text still exists. Much as importantly, the oral tradition of this text being taught from master to pupil continues to this day. The tradition around this text is a living tradition. If any of you have heard His Holiness teaching, he studied this text under many masters, but the one he mentions quite a lot is a Nyingma master called Kunulama Rinpoche, who wrote a very, maybe famous is the wrong word, but I think very important text, Vast as the Ocean, which is his verses on bodhicitta. And anyone, I recommend you to get that, and just every day or every second day, just open it up, look at a verse, think about it, put it away. Use it like a dip in. They're extraordinary. His mind was amazing. His scholarship was amazing. His Holiness sings his praises constantly. Of course, to do a kind of Gareth Sparham thing, fantastic man, now dead. But the living tradition carries on. Our teachers have studied with His Holiness, but they've also studied with other living teachers. And this, when you hear the text recited by someone like His Holiness, so when he teaches in, like Zurich was the last time I was aware, when he teaches the whole text, he's giving what's known as the lung, the oral transmission. So once you have the lung, then it's almost like a permission to really get down and work with the text, to study the text in depth. And within the Tibetan culture, it's very important to have the lung for any text that you're studying. Without that, somehow you don't have the blessings of the lineage. You don't have the blessings of the masters. And quite often this is what His Holiness is doing when he's teaching text. He'll take one verse or something and really look at it, and then the rest of it is just oral transmission and kind of general advice. But what he's basically saying is, here you are, now go away and work with this with your teachers, really use it. Maybe it's just my own mental projection, but when I receive the lung of a text that I'm studying, it's so much better. It's hard work, generally, without the lung. When you get the lung, somehow it starts to make sense. Sorry for coughing into your face on the internet. So, this is the first chapter, to develop a sense of admiration, a sense of wonder, a sense of real respect and veneration for the mind of bodhicitta and the beings, the people who have that mind, the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas. And so the very end of that first chapter, the verse on verse 36, I prostrate to the body of he in whom the sacred precious mind is born. I seek refuge in that source of happiness who brings to happiness even those who harm him. Of course, it's gender neutral. It's not that only he's become Buddhas. But you can take the whole of that prostration verse and read it back across the whole of the first chapter. And when you're doing that, what you're doing is starting to be aware of the next thing that's happening within these first three chapters, which is that interwoven into the first three chapters is the Anuttara Puja, what we call the seven-limb prayer. So, once again, what limbs are in the seven-limb prayer? What's the first one? Prostration. Second one? Offering. Third one? Confession. Fourth one? Rejoicing. Fifth one? Request. Then the sixth one? Seventh? Dedication. So prostration, offering, confession or admission, rejoicing, requesting to teach, requesting to remain, and then dedication. They can be switched, those two. Particularly the Geluk, they tend to switch the order. Other schools, they keep the same. But in Indian tradition, you only find it in requesting to teach and then to stay. So those are the 7 limbs. And they're a very neat package for developing merit, if you like, I personally think. So the first chapter is prostration to some extent. Now, chapter 2 starts with generosity. Although it's headed in this text, confessing negativities, if you look at the first verses and quite a long way into it, it's about generosity. So, would somebody, hey, we don't have the hand around mic anymore. Oh, yes, we do, up here. I now become the disembodied voice. So, would somebody please read out loud into the microphone from verse 1 up to verse 9. Any offers? Any offers? Any Barbara? Perfect. You do realize that all of you who look at the floor, it will happen one day. You will have to do it one day. You can't get away just by doing pigs in space. It doesn't work. Okay, please, thank you.
In order to uphold that precious mind, I make excellent offerings to the Tathagatas, to the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel, and to the children of the Buddhas, the oceans of excellent qualities. Whatever flowers and fruits there are, and whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in this world, and whatever clean, refreshing waters. Jewel mountains and likewise, forest groves, quiet and joyful places. Heavenly trees, ornamented by and bedecked with flowers and trees, with branches laden with good fruit. Fragrances and incense of the realms of gods, wish-fulfilling trees and jewel trees. Uncultivated harvests and all ornaments that are worthy to be offered. Lakes and pools adorned with lotuses, and the beautiful cry of wild geese. Everything unowned within the limitless spheres of space. Taking these with my mind, I offer them to the supreme beings, the Munis as well as their sons. O holy objects of offering, compassionate ones, think mercifully of me and accept these offerings of mine. Not having merit, I am destitute, and I have no other gifts to offer. Thus, O protectors, you who think of others' welfare, through your power, accept these for my sake. Eternally, I shall offer all my bodies to the conquerors and their children. Please accept me, you supreme heroes. Respectfully shall I be your subject. Through being completely under your care, I shall not fear conditioned existence and shall benefit sentient beings. I shall perfectly transcend my previous negativities and henceforth shall commit no more.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you. As you can see, it's not neat in the sense that the offering and the admission of weakness or fault are kind of mixed. The last verse, so verse 7, verse 8, verse 9, they're also mixed in with this kind of a sense of having fault, having something to overcome, having something to leave behind. But the offerings, sometimes they're very traditional, and so one way of doing offerings is to imagine sort of banks of clouds with offerings arranged on them, just flowing towards the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you. But another way, and also with prostration, is to, sometimes it's called Samantabhadra's way, which is to imagine that your body of now and your body of all previous lives, and you can sometimes do all future lives, so many, many of your body, multiply, and they prostrate, and they sing praises and homages, and then from them, many light rays go out with offerings, and out of the offerings on the end of the light rays, more light rays go out, more light rays go out, so you end up with this vast mass of offerings throughout the space in front of you. And even in the visualization, there's this sense of expansion, expansiveness in the mind. It's none of this is, I give you, fish and chips. It's all visualized. All of this stuff is visualized. So you don't have to think, oh, I can't offer that. Whatever you find beautiful, whatever you find uplifting and gorgeous and wonderful, that you can offer, And it doesn't have to be in a ritual sense, like I personally find quite useful when I get up in the morning, I try and find 3 things to rejoice in and think, wow, that's lovely, and offer it to the Buddhas. It helps me get over sometimes I can wake up with a kind of, not quite a hangover, but a sense of being grumpy, so it helps me get over that. But it also, in my family, we have a slight tendency towards some kind of depressiveness, so it deals with that. And it's also fun. It's lovely, particularly, when it's a classic November grey, rainy day, and there's traffic noise and mess in the streets. And then you have to kind of think, okay, so what am I going to offer? And then you hear a bird, and you can offer that. And you can rejoice in that particular form of grey. You know what I mean? You can find things. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's a grey day, and kind of we just weigh ourselves down. We can look for these things. And when you're looking for that in your life, then somehow that helps counteract the kind of internal tendency to moan and oh no, just go, which Frankie Howerd took off very well in English comedy, with oh, woe is me, woe, woe, and thrice woe, But it's this whole thing of offering and expansion. I mean, we're going to do some meditation on it using some of these verses, but the whole point is to lift ourselves up, open ourselves up, and offer, develop that mental sense of generosity. And although it's all about, beautiful places and beautiful things, and slightly linked in with kind of traditional cultural views about things, so you have jewel mountains and things like that. They tend not to feature in our particular culture very strongly, or with like Pure Lands, and they say that Pure Lands are paved in lapis lazuli, and you walk on it and it's soft and it comes back up again. And then there are metal, there are kind of trees bedecked with precious stones and automata birds tweeting in them. And we don't really have that. Sometimes you get those little shops with the kind of tourist shop, and you get the twisted wire and the stones coming off to look like a small tree. That's very Asian, that style of doing things. And you don't have to kind of do it in that style. Do whatever's beautiful for us. But there are extraordinary things. If you take yourself around the, British Museum or the V&A or something like that, every now and again you will see something really stunning that somebody must have spent hours and hours and hours making, something so beautiful. And you just go, wow, and offer it. It's so easy. You don't have to kind of throw yourself on the ground and make a show. You just think, that's beautiful. Offer that up. Keep everything up and light. Hello? Welcome. Yes, of course you can ask a question. But you have to speak into the microphone. And you have to come in front of the camera, and I can go, Radhik was late. Turn it on, turn it on.
Offering. I just want to ask a quick question about offerings. Do we actually, maybe 2 questions in one. When we do do we need to see something actually very beautiful to offer it, or can we? We know that we can also imagine, and the question is the difference actually? Would there be more merit from one or another? Because if I can imagine like multiplied, I don't know, beautiful universes or whatever, I can actually, I don't have to go out or search for anything.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just
If you
be
can imagine
constant.
it, if you can imagine it, and I mean, I've rubbish visual imagination. So some people can, they can have, I don't know, one fast car, and then they make it 2, make it 3, make it 4, and then they offer all of that up. I just get a blob if I'm lucky, So for me, when I see things or hear things, then I think, oh, and I offer it up. But it depends how strong your mind is, My mind's very weak, Yeah. And the other question?
So,
And the other question was, or that was it?
no, actually, I might just draw from what you said. So the imagination must be really good. I mean, does it have to be like a very beautiful visualization, or can I just think, you know what, there's some beautiful things in the universe, like some
That's fine.
good deeds, and I
fine.
think that's the most beautiful offering I can offer.
That's fine. They're all metaphors to make us open our hearts, to make us generous. Whatever works, do it,
Cool, thank you.
Alison.
Is it on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'd just like to be a bit more forensic about this offering practice, because I've had such mental wrangles with it over the years. I love the idea of offering to all the Buddhas and all sentient beings, because there's actually some sentient beings who might get more out of it than the Buddhas. You're offering, beautiful bathhouses, and you're thinking of people in a country where they never get near warm water. So that kind of doubles it for me. And then also offering, I mean, when you just do it like that, that kind of makes sense. But I'm thinking, well, what am I just offering the pleasure of it? Am I offering the tangible? Do they need it? Do you know what I mean? I can get quite caught up in that. Have you got any helpful thoughts?
I mean, the short answer is that's what we call prapancha, isn't it? That's the proliferative mind. So rather than just offer and let go, we have a commentary running with it. And I relate to that entirely. But it's the more we can let go of the commentary. It's particularly, visualizing. So one thing, offering to sentient beings, yes, of course, yeah. I mean, in many of the texts it says, to offer to sentient beings is better than to offer to the Buddhas. Because in one sense, they don't need it. But to offer to them, and also in sadhana practice, of course, you send out lights, and the sentient beings have offerings made to them, then they become Buddhas, and then again you make offerings to them. So all of these things are possible, but that utilizing your wish that people in countries with no water have water at the same time, I think that's great. That just adds in added value in a sense. Do they need it, particularly with visualization? It's too much. Just do it.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Yeah, no, just do it. But prapancha is very hard. We all have our own sets where one thing just triggers and then it goes off. And first thing is just to notice and laugh and stop, and that will bring it back in eventually. But it's very common, yeah. And partly this is using that prapancha type mind, You offer one thing and then you imagine it's going more and more and more and more and more, That's taking that prapancha mind, which starts off with a thought and then proliferates, and before you know it, you're all over the place and you've no idea what you're doing anymore, and you've forgotten what the meditation was about, It's like, okay. But it's using that going out energy, if you like, in a beneficial way. But it still has the quality of, I mean, it depends on the person, doesn't it? Sometimes, for somebody who's not terribly visual in my mind, although I studied art history, I should be, then I kind of talk myself through various offerings, you know. And I don't necessarily get an image. And occasionally I do get an image, and then of course I ruin it by going, oh, image, and it goes. I've missed it because I've grabbed at it and it didn't last. But as long as the underlying thing is developing my generosity, then whatever works.
I mean, this is a very sort of slightly wishy-washy distinction, but it's almost like we're talking here about heart rather than head. So we offer with the heart, and, you know, just offer without dissecting it too much and keeping the head out of it.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I think, yes, definitely. Don't make too much, don't be too analytical about it, just go for it, you know. It's, yeah.
I mean, the other thing that comes to mind is wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody could enjoy this? And that's a natural sort of...
That's fine, that's no
way
problem.
into this as
Yeah,
well.
that's no problem. Yeah.
So, thank you.
Behind you.
So we shouldn't have any intellectualization, as you call it, not much commentary, but we need to think about the empty nature of the three spheres of the offering while we're doing it.
Yes, but that thinking about the empty nature of the three spheres, which we'll kind of look at that in chapter 9 here, but that if kind of offering your book, then it's accompanied by very elaborate thinking about, well, I'm empty, the book's empty, the giving is empty, and the person I'm giving to is empty. Somehow the joy of the gift is destroyed in that. You know what I mean? So you need to keep the awareness that it's not a thing, it's not substance, you know, Nagarjuna's critique of, it's not substance, there's no substance there in any of this activity. It is simply an interaction. Exactly, a flow, then in that kind of thing, that's fine. And of course, with the emptiness stuff, that you do need to do on the cushion. You need to sit there until you have some sense of it and then bring it into daily life and watch it disappear almost immediately. But gradually it comes more, that we get slightly less clingy about things because we recognize that it's evaporated. By the time we've clung to it, that's not there anymore because impermanence is so fast, you know. Okay. All right. So there's kind of nothing to say here, really, you know, because there's verse 6, the Munis and their sons, it's sons and daughters, it's their bodhisattvas. This is male-gendered because the original text is male-gendered, and probably he was talking to an entirely male audience. But as you know, the image of goddess Tara up on the over the front of the Tenjur shows that in Tibetan Buddhism, sexuality and gender have absolutely nothing to do with our Buddha nature. You know, it's not about bits and pieces. And then this verse 7, not having merit, I am destitute, and I have no other gifts to offer. So, and then asking them to be accepted. So, in your own mind, if you have a tendency to knock yourself down, do that lightly. You know what I mean? I am destitute, I have no other gifts to offer. Don't use these things which are about knocking down pride to already knock yourself down when you're not terribly good at the self-confidence game, you know? This is very useful for arrogant people like me, you know, because it makes me down. And but if you have issues about low self-confidence, don't take these things and make it worse. You know, all these texts, you know, when you give a public talk on any Buddhist Dharma, you're kind of giving a general thing. And you hope that somebody then has a teacher or a Dharma friend who they can talk to, and they can kind of tailor what's in the general advice to their own life, you know? Because quite often I've seen in my time here, people who've taken things from Buddhist texts out of context and then used it to create problems for themselves. And that is the Tibetan phrase I really, really like, which is turning gods into demons. You know, these things that are supposed to help us, and we then turn them into things that cause us problems. So we need to develop a little bit of awareness about who we are and our tendencies, and particularly low self-esteem and low confidence are quite common across our society at present, as far as I can work out. Quite a lot of kids of my sister's, kids' age, and people, they seem to have an issue around self-confidence. I know as adolescents we go through a lot of kind of stuff about what should I be and who should I be and all this kind of stuff. And maybe that's just part of growing up, but sometimes it seems to hold people back, and then it gets stuck into us when we're in our 20s and 30s and 40s, and it can go on forever. So we need to kind of start to recognize these things are, this kind of first part of the verse is for arrogant people like Mike Murray, not for somebody who has poor self-esteem, because that's very important. If you think about it, you're going to, why are we developing this mind of bodhicitta? What's the point of it? Is because it will bring us to enlightenment, to full enlightenment quickly, so that we can be of the best value to others. That development of bodhicitta is precisely the thing that will deal with our low self-esteem. It will do that. To become Buddha is the best that you can become. There is nothing better than becoming fully enlightened, to be free of samsara and able to help beings in the most appropriate way at any time as they appear to you. But so just doing this stuff around bodhicitta will help you with low self-esteem, will help you with negative self-images. But there are occasionally bits in here that are about knocking down arrogance, knocking down pride. And each one of us needs to recognize where we are on that spectrum of being stable, arrogant, and undervaluing ourselves, and then we need to work appropriately with that, yeah? Sorry for getting a bit preachy there, but okay. So now for the last 10 so minutes, we'll do the meditation. So on this sheet, Meditations, Saturday, 8 September. So just, although there are traditional phrases in these two verses, in order to uphold that precious mind, I make excellent offerings to the Tathagatas, to the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel, and to the children of the Buddhas, the ocean of excellent qualities. Whatever flowers and fruits there are, whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in the world, whatever clean, refreshing waters. That's just the beginning. You can just look at that whole section on the first page up to, say, verse 5, chapter 2, verse 5. All of those things, just imagine you're offering them, but also the things that you like. If you like beautiful music, I don't know, Bach, or my current obsession is maroon, but all these, just whatever you like, offer it. If it's anything that is beautiful and uplifting, offer it. And just enjoy that. Be creative with it. Have fun with it. Don't think, I can't visualize, geese flying in the sky and making that call. Don't worry. Just think of what pleases you. If that's goldfish, then offer goldfish. Cats, offer cats. Whatever it is, but just that sense of lightness and offering and joyfulness, because you like it, It's not offering, you know what I mean? It's happy, fun. So just whatever you enjoy, offer up. So I'll recite those two lines, those two verses, and then just please in your meditation offer anything you love up to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all sentient beings who will be Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in future. In order to uphold that precious mind, I make excellent offerings to the Tathagatas, to the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel, and to the children of the Buddhas, the oceans of excellent qualities. Whatever flowers and fruits there are, whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in this world, on whatever clean, refreshing waters, Thank you. And now the offering of tea.